Hey traders, it's John Fortune here with this week's Weekly Forex Forecast for the 4th of November to the 8th of November 2019. As always, what we're going to do, we're going to start off by looking at the US dollar index and crude oil before running through a number of markets, looking at the key levels of support and resistance in the process. And we're going to be highlighting some of the targets that we're going to be looking for in this upcoming week and also for the weeks ahead. So I hope you're all having a great weekend. Let's jump over to the charts and see where the money is this week. As always, we're going to start off by looking at the US dollar index. Just before we do that, I just want to highlight two key pieces of data coming out this week for you. We do have in the early hours of Tuesday morning an Australian interest rate decision, and we also have a UK interest rate decision on Thursday, November the 7th. Both of these events are likely to bring volatility into those markets, so the Australian dollar and the pound pairs. So just bear that in mind when you're trading those pairs on those days. So starting with the US dollar index, as we always do. Last week we were looking further declines to the downside. We did go into last week with a bearish bias on the dollar index, and we highlighted an upcoming interest rate decision out of the US last week where we were expecting a potential rate cut, which we did eventually get, and as a result since then we had a decline to the downside in the dollar index. Very simply put, we go into this week looking for further declines to the downside in the dollar index, so we go into this week with a bearish bias on the dollar index. We did start to make our way towards the target set last week at 96.58, although we did not come all the way down to it. So very simply put, going into this week, what we're going to be looking for in the dollar index, if we can get a pullback, and potentially if we can come back and retest broken supports, turning resistance at the 97.79. Any pullback in this area is going to be an opportunity to start to look for further declines to the downside in the dollar index. And we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target highlighted from last week at the 96.58. So just to repeat, we are going into this week with a bearish bias on the dollar index. So the next market we're going to look at is crude oil. Now last week we were looking for a pullback and a retest of the 54.94. We did get a pullback and a test of this level. However, we dipped slightly below it, so we have adjusted the level down this week just to represent the information which came in last week. This is a better level to use for the week ahead at the 54.43. But either way, we are still looking further advances to the upside going into this week. Now we've had this pullback. If we can get at the start of next week a pullback in this area, and preferably as always, it'd be great if we did come back and retest broken resistance turning support once again at the 54.43. This will give us our opportunity next week to start to look for bullish formations and patterns in this market. And if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside in the target set at the 59.31. So next market that we're going to look at is euro dollar. Now last week we started the week in this area and we were looking for further advances to the upside in this market. We did get that push to the upside we were looking for last week, but we did not come and test the target as of yet at the 1.11990. We fell just short of it. So very simply put, for anybody not involved in this from last week, if we can get a pullback, and we would really want a pullback because we're quite close to the target here. So in order to get good risk to reward, we'd like to see a pullback in this area once again. Preferably even if we can come back and retest broken resistance turning support at the 1.10630, because this would give us the best risk to reward, the best amount of room to the target. And if we get any pullback in this area, this is going to be viewed next week as an opportunity to start to look for bullish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside in the target highlighted from last week at the 1.1199. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and target 2 at the 1.1249. The next market that we're going to look at is pound dollar. Now last week we were looking further advances up towards the key area of resistance to the upside and the target set at the 1.3022. We did get this move to the upside, but we did not take out the target set from last week. We came slightly short before the week finished. So going into this week, what we'd like to see is we are still looking for the 1.3022 to be taken out to the upside in pound dollar. As we're coming quite close in this market as well, if we can get a pullback in this area, any pullback in this area is going to give us an opportunity to start to look for bullish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this area, and preferably, of course, if we come back down to retest broken resistance turning support, this would be great as it would give us a lot of room to the target. But any pullback in this area is going to be used as an opportunity to look for bullish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside in the target set at the 1.3022. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking up towards target 2 and the next key area of resistance to the upside at the 1.3179. So next market we're going to look at is US dollar Japanese yen. Now last week we highlighted this was quite an interesting market because although we have a bearish bias on the dollar index, it is still currently structured to the upside. So very similar to last week, we were looking for a potential pullback to the 106.96. We did highlight that although we are structured to the upside, we're looking for this pullback first, and we did start to get this sell-off. So very simply put, going into this week, we're looking for a continuation of this. We're still looking for further declines to the downside in the US dollar Japanese yen. When we come down to the 106.96, as we discussed last week, if we can get down to here, this is going to be an area we can start to consider looking for bullish formations and patterns. But we will also have to take into account in this area what the dollar index is doing, and that will likely be a couple of weeks ahead. So very simply put, what we're looking for next week, very similar to what we discussed last week, is we're looking for a pullback towards the 106.96. And if we can get this pullback down into this area, this is the area we will in subsequent weeks be looking for potential bullish reversal patterns. And if we get those reversals, we'll be looking back up towards the 109.31. So next week, you can either look to maybe trade this counter trend, or if you want, you could just leave this out completely and focus on the dollar week pairs, which are in line with the overall trend and not counter trend like this one. But this is what we're looking for, this pullback next week in US dollar yen. So the next market that we're going to look at is Aussie dollar. Now, last week we were looking for further advances to the upside in this market, and we did actually come out and take out the target set at 0.6902. So very simply put, we're looking for further advances to the upside in this market this week. If we can get a pullback and a retest of broken resistance turning support, the 0.6880. This is going to be a great place next week to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking up towards the next key area resistance to the upside in the target set at 0.6996. And if we can get a breakthrough here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key area resistance to the upside in target 2 at the 0.7084. Now, just bear in mind, we have an interest rate decision next Tuesday. So if you know how to trade interest rate decisions, we teach our members how to trade interest rate decisions. That's fine. You can trade these markets during those periods. If you don't, and especially if you're new to trading, the best advice is to actually wait until these pieces of data have passed and then start to trade these pairs once the actual event has taken place. So next market that we're going to look at is New Zealand dollar. Now last week we were looking for further advances to the upside in this market, and we did come and take out the target set last week at the 0.6450. So very simply put, going into this week we're still looking for further advances to the upside in this market. If we can get a pullback, and if we can come back and retest broken resistance turning support at the 0.63740. This would be a fantastic place next week to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bullish setups in this market, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area resistance to the upside in the target set at the 0.6507. So next market that we're going to look at is US dollar Swiss franc. Now last week we highlighted the 0.9949 for you all as an area to start to look for declines to the downside in this market. We did get a reversal at this area in this market last week, and we drove price down towards the target at the 0.9815, but we did not come and take out this target just yet. So very simply put, going into this week, any pullback in this area for anybody not involved in this market from last week, and preferably once again, in order to get the best risk to reward, if we could come back and test once again broken support turning resistance at the 0.99490, any pullback in this area is going to be a great chance to start to look for further declines to the downside in this market. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key of support to the downside in the target set at the 0.9815. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key of support to the downside in target 2 at the 0.9717. So next market we're going to look at is US dollar CAD. Now this market got quite volatile last week as we had a US and a Canadian interest rate decision both on the same day. And as a result, we had this rally to the upside and we traded into this key area of broken support from the past, starting to hold as resistance at the 1.3170. So very simply put, we're still looking for further declines to the downside in this market despite this rally last week. Going into this week, this is now a great place to start to look for those bearish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bearish formations and patterns in this market, we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key of support to the downside in the target set at the 1.30380. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2 at the 1.2956. Last but not least, we have gold. Now we start the week above a key area of broken resistance from the past, looking to turn support at the 1490.37. If we can get a pullback in this area this week, any pullback in this area is going to give us an opportunity to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating longs in this market up towards the next key area resistance, the upside and the target set at the 1534.00. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key area resistance, the upside and target 2 at the 1557.06. So that is it from me for this week, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please let me know by liking, sharing and subscribing. A big thank you to everyone who does that on a regular basis, and a big thank you to all of you who comment and have subscribed to the channel so far. I want to wish you all a fantastic weekend, and I want to wish you all the best in your trading next week. Keep an eye out for those interest rate decisions out of Australia in the early hours of Tuesday morning and out of the UK around midday on Thursday. But apart from that, guys, the only thing left for me to say is take care and don't forget to trade safely.